Hello, this is a Farmeneur Talks, and I am honored to be seated here together with the Singh-Watson family. Did I say it right?
That's correct.
Very good.
Well, you probably listen to a podcast with Guy Watson. They are founders of Riverford. You are a farmer and you are a
Restaurateurs. So
Restaurateurs.
I run restaurants, organic restaurants, but they're completely separate businesses. I'm not Riverford.
Okay.
Put that clear.
Well, you just said we were a founder of Riverford, and I'm not a founder
So you are the founder of
of organic pubs and restaurants.
Organic Pubs and
Yeah,
Restaurants.
so the Bull Inn in Totnes is my latest venture.
And they were traveling around Spain, and we invite them to visit our office here in Madrid, and then maybe they will visit some farms, and maybe they will visit us also in Valencia. So please, Guy, tell us. So you have been doing. We feel like very pioneers, but but in fact you have been doing the same thing that we are doing for 35 years, no? So please. Tell us a bit
I
about
think so.
Riverford.
Like you, I'm a farmer's son, and I went away and did other things for
I
a
am a
bit.
farmer grandson.
Grandson.
My father is a naval architect,
Okay.
but my grandfather used to be an orange farmer.
Okay. Well, I I did grow up on the farm, milking cows, and went away to be do business for a bit. Didn't like it very much. Came back to the farm in my mid-20s and started growing organic vegetables. Didn't like selling them to supermarkets very much, so I started selling them direct to the public, as you do. But that was back in the late 80s, early 90s. I think 1993 I delivered my first vegetable box.
Oh,
And
I was born in this age, 1968.
okay.
Not 1960, no, 1986, sorry.
Yeah, I was about to
Okay,
say,
that's
that
how
would
you
be
do it.
right.
You're not good on it.
You're older than me.
This is the orange that I grow that maintain me.
Yeah, so I've been growing vegetables for 35 years and selling them directly to the public for most of that time. And I love doing it. I still love doing it. I love doing it even more than when I started, really. I have mixed feelings about running a big business. That's not really what I wanted to do, but you have to do it in order to. If I could have eaten all the vegetables myself, I would have been happy, but there were just too many, so I had to sell them. And selling them directly to the public, to people who really appreciate their flavour, and the story behind them is just so much more rewarding than selling them to a supermarket buyer. When it's all just about price and
Whatever product you don't sell, then you cook it, no? In the restaurants.
Well, I buy off Riverford and
To which price?
at normal price.
Competitive price?
Because Guy sold the vast majority of his business to his staff, so it's employee owned now. So Guy owns 24%, they own 76%. So it's a truly independent business now that's in trust and can never be sold. So it's a permanent, forever business for his team. Which
I think
is
you should
amazing.
write more about this topic, because I have read some news about this, but once I want to go in detail how you did it and how will be the future of the business, I don't find enough information. So whenever you have the time,
I
once
agree.
you are really, really retired for farming, please write this down in a book.
I
or
agree.
something.
I don't think it's fascinating and absolutely brilliant. And it wasn't just that he sold it. He sold it for quarter of the value. So it was valued at, I can't remember however much, and he sold it for a quarter of that amount.
Yeah.
Because he said, I don't want the money, I don't need it, and this business is a good and beautiful thing that I want to continue. It's incredibly beautiful, and I don't think they talk about it.
Yeah, not enough.
So
not
therefore, I don't get a discount.
Because one of the things about selling it to the other co-owners is that we are then all the same. So I mean, I can't sell vegetables to my wife at a discounted price, because everyone could do that. So it's quite a kind of democratic
Right.
way of doing things. So actually, we took the money, and Geetie and I, we bought a farm 2 or 3 kilometres away where I've gone back to growing vegetables on quite a small scale, which is what I like. And
And then we're creating a small cooperative there well, it's more of a collective of independent farmers who all have their own businesses, and we're supporting them and trying to support them, but it's their businesses.
Yeah.
So it's kind of incubation of
It's somewhere between.
Farmers.
yeah.
So it's a Farmeneurs. You can use this name.
A
We
farmer
get a
what?
we call it Farmeneurs.
A farmer.
Like the
Yes.
farmers that are entrepreneurs.
Farmer.
I give you this
Yeah.
one for free.
Farmers. Okay.
I see it
it's also a
somewhere.
good excuse when you when a friend of you like asks you, can you hire my son? You can say no, it's not longer my company. So it's also a good excuse.
That is sometimes useful, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And Guy, tell us, what is the how do you see the future of farming? We have been discussing about packaging, and basically you can talk about whatever you want in this video, because whatever you feel talking.
I think there's a huge need for farming to change. I mean, one can argue about the figures, but I mean, farming is contributing something between maybe a third and a half of the environmental destruction, whether that's habitat loss, loss of biodiversity, or indeed climate change. You know, farming is contributing a huge amount to that, and it has to change. And it has to change quickly, and you know, it's very difficult to get governments to support the sort of change that we need to see. So I guess what Geetie and I are trying to do is to demonstrate in a very small scale how farming could be done. So we have a small farm which is, you know, has many different enterprises on it, many different crops. You know, lots of different people working there. You know, a lot more perennial crops, so particularly nuts we're introducing, and.
How many jobs are you creating? Because it's
we're on a farm which probably would have been half a full-time person,
right.
And we probably have 30 people working there now, and I think there will be, you know, probably lots more in the future. It's about giving opportunities to people who really want to grow food and want to grow food in a good way, and I love being in a position to do that, having the wealth and the experience and the resources to be able to help other people to kind of, I suppose, fulfil their dreams, the dreams that, if I go back 30 or 40 years, that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's lovely to be able to be in a position to help other people, do that now. So that's kind of the next chapter in our lives, I think.
And it's supporting people running their own businesses, so it's good, you know, it's allowing people to have their real autonomy, and I think that's so important, to give people autonomy, mastery, purpose. Have you heard Dan Pink's talk around that?
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic, and I think it's vitally important.
So, I mean, all the pressures on agriculture are towards the commodification of everything, the removal of uniqueness, scale, you know, in production, scale in marketing, scale in distribution, and I mean, there's almost nothing I like in you know, so I suppose it is being a bit of a rebellion, trying to find. And it's difficult to make things pay on a small scale so that people can earn a reasonable living. But trying to develop models where that can happen, I guess that's what we're trying to do. And, you know, most of them will probably fail. Hopefully some of them will be successful, and those ones, hopefully other people will copy and take forward. So.
But you asked what the future of farming is, and actually, I think the most important things are waste and seasonality. So we stop wasting the food that we're producing, and if there is waste, you know, it's left in the field rather than being wasted at the end of line, and that people really understand seasonal eating, which would change how we distribute food, it would change how we eat, it would change how we use land. That's the absolutely vital message that we've got to... Yeah. I engage people in really hard, because we're sucked into the marketing machine that sells us stuff that is unnecessary and unviable over and over again. That's why we're all doing is vitally important.
We have been having lunch together, and we have been discussing about how should our marketing team should be built when you don't want to sell something, but you want to communicate the reality of farming.
Yes.
One thing I'm curious, so you are an expert in all the veggies that you couldn't cultivate, or you have been cultivating veggies all your life. But is there a fruit that you wish you could have cultivated in England, but since the weather or the climate conditions you don't have? I mean, is there something that you would love to cultivate?
Well, I mean, actually, the further south.
If you have a farm in Spain, what will it look like?
Well, I mean, there'd be a lot of perennial, so a lot of crops. So, I mean, I'm particularly obsessed by growing nuts, hazelnuts, walnuts, chestnuts. You know, because they are there, they require less disturbance of the soil and less destruction of the soil, and mixing it all up in a way so that you have not just nuts, but you have nuts and crops growing underneath, and perhaps animals grazing. And I think the further you come south towards the equator, the more the sun's higher in the air. You know, you have a better potential to mix crops up. I mean, in the more northern latitudes, plants are always struggling to get the sunlight that they need, and if you plant something that shades them, then that's going to reduce their yield. I think there's much more potential as you go. So I would love to farm in Spain. I mean, I can see it's really challenging, you know, especially in the drier bits of Spain, but that, you know, just having all that sunlight, that's what I'm a bit jealous of your sunshine, I think.
And if you open a restaurant in Spain, how will it look like?
I don't think I'd want to. Sorry.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to.
My restaurant. I have this
It's okay.
beautiful inn in Devon, so it's a pub with rooms, and we get to we buy food from Europe, but mostly it's British and it's seasonal, and I love it. It's fantastic. I like coming here and eating your food, but
It is
I like
lovely.
where I
It's
am.
lovely visiting your food, Spain, and eating your food. But you know, I love what the restaurants that Geetie runs at home, and I think it's really important to have a sense of place and not to try and make everywhere the same. You know, it's pretty depressing actually walking down the streets in Madrid and seeing the same shops that we have at home. I mean, you know, that sort of uniqueness, I mean, that's what capitalism destroys. It wants to commodify everything so it can be traded, and you know, actually it's the uniqueness that most of us crave, I think. So yeah, no, I think you should stick to running
I will.
local restaurants in Devon. Yeah.
Guy, I have seen some videos on YouTube from you, and you have no filter. You talk the way you think, and you're kind of activist, you know, in farmer activist.
I think so.
Were you the same like 30 years ago when you started, or how did you change your point of view of the society or about farming industry?
I think when I started, I was very antisocial.
Right.
I think, like a lot of farmers, I didn't really like talking to people. I was much happier in the fields on my own, and I think mostly did what I did to prove myself to my father, to be honest. That's what I think, you know, actually that's really quite common for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You know, they're seeking approval. They're seen as being these big, strong, independent people and so on, but mostly they're desperately insecure people seeking the approval of, most commonly, their father. And that's how I started. I like to think I've moved a bit beyond that now.
Yeah. But about sharing your opinion, I mean, because you share your opinion with no filter, you are very convinced about your ideas and so on. Is a matter of experience, or?
I just think there is so much crap in the world that's accepted, so much untruth that's accepted as being truth when it really isn't, and I just think it really needs challenging, and I think I've done that all my life really, and where you see something which is just patently stupid, I mean, actually, as a business person, there is an opportunity there to challenge it, I think, and to be disruptive, and I think somehow I intuitively knew that from a very early age. I didn't need to go to business school to learn it. I just knew it. Maybe I got it from my father, I don't know. And
But you have an instinct of that it's something you want, and so you know there's a movement of other people out there, and then you're brave enough to take the step, aren't you? And you were disgusted at basically the flavour of vegetables. I mean, in Britain it was grim then. It was really bad. It was really hard to get hold of a vegetable that actually tasted of something because they were all grown for shelf life.
Right.
And so you started growing yourself and selling to people in the belief that there were other people around who wanted vegetables that tasted
well,
nice.
that's true, but mostly I started selling directly because I just don't think any human being should treat another human being the way a supermarket buyer treats a farmer.
Yeah.
You know, there's just no place for that in any world that I want to live in. That sort of ritualistic abuse of power is something that I just really wanted to provide an alternative to, and I think we have been really successful at Riverford in doing that, and I love at CrowdFarming that you're doing the same in Spain. I wish you the best of luck with it.
12 years ago I created my website because when I was trying to sell the oranges to intermediaries, I have to convince them about things that I was not motivated to grow. No, they always find, when they were coming to the farm, they always find like the orange. Look, this one is very small, I cannot sell it, so I cannot pay to you. Look, this one has this thing in the skin, so I'm sorry, I said, but look at this, I mean, taste it. I mean, why don't you tell to your customer that inside is the same? No, Gonzalo, people will never buy an orange like this, no? So maybe it's not to prove to my father, but to prove to intermediaries that it is possible to sell an orange like this to end consumers.
Well, that's what I mean. When you see stupidness,
yeah.
That is an opportunity. So you saw stupidness, an orange that tasted good, but was being rejected just because of its flavour. Well, that's an opportunity, and then to sell those oranges and create, and challenge the existing model where people just buy on appearance and price, and create something better. And
we need to do it with politicians. So we stop voting on appearance, and we want inner beauty, no matter how grim they are.
So I don't want to steal more time from you. Thank you very much for having lunch together.
It's been lovely, very good food.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And enjoy your time traveling in Spain. Hope to see you in our farm in Valencia, but anyway, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
We can
sure
continue talking
will.
learning from each other. So we always say bye-bye like this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you for listening.